Hey everyone, welcome to My Final Play. I'm Brian. I'm here on location with former Major League Baseball pitcher Jason Phillips. Jason, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for the time.
So we're going to get into the experience of baseball that you went through and just kind of shed some light on what the game taught you and go from there. So as far as the game itself, where did it all start for you?
I grew up in Hughesville, PA,
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania, just east of here. Very small town, east of Williamsport. I had an older brother, 5 years older.
Yeah.
And so I'd say it started there, wanting to play with him and his friends.
Yeah.
Didn't take too kind to me, kind of trailing around, being their shadow. So every opportunity I got to play with them, I kind of had to suck it up, be abused physically, emotionally, at home, in school, because the school's so small, we would share hallways.
Yeah.
But, I had a father that spent a lot of time with my brother and I, so it started there. Very competitive, trying to keep up with my brother and his friends. So.
Awesome. So, I mean, as far as sports in general, was baseball the only sport that you played in high school?
No, I was played basketball. I think at the time I enjoyed playing a lot of basketball. I played a couple of years of football. Just it wasn't something that was for me. I just wasn't. I like hitting people. I like being hit, being a linebacker or tight end, defensive end. But we had a program that wasn't super successful, and last thing I want to do is get hurt.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be a quarterback. That's where they wanted me to play, and so I spent my time, as I got older, lifting in the fall, get ready for basketball, baseball. So it was pretty much those two sports growing up.
So at what point did you realize that you could play at the next level then?
That's funny because I was a sophomore. Went to a camp, and at that time it was at Mansfield, and they had a really good program at that time.
Yep.
I know Coach Hilson showed some interest, and there was a pitching coach here from West Point, and at that time, I had a father who went through the Air Force, pretty blue collar family. Had an older brother at Penn State, so I was looking for a scholarship, kind of. One for pride, to earn a scholarship, but also too just to kind of help my folks out. So when West Point really started recruiting me, I thought, well, there's an opportunity. I like the discipline.
Yeah.
So for me, that was the next step. Nothing professionally. Didn't. So then I had a chance to play the Keystone Games, which aren't as popular now, but it's kind of a statewide Olympics, and that's when we were in the Allentown area. That's when I really found out that, all right, here's some schools that are interested. Jumped to my junior year, a few more schools kind of jumped on. We didn't have the travel ball like they do today.
Mm-hmm.
Then I kind of found out that some pro scouts showed some interest, and then that kind of got me to think, well, if I go to West Point, that would have to be on the back burner. So I kind of really put my efforts on earning a scholarship. Was awarded one at North Carolina State at the time, and then by the time I was a senior, I was fortunate enough to be a USA Today top 20 kid, and at that time, again, before the internet, that was a big deal. And every start my senior year, there was plenty of people there, and drafted by the Pirates, and kind of took that opportunity. So it took some time. It's not like today where the publications, the internet, all these, younger kids getting opportunities at the college level as a freshman, sophomore,
right,
or schools committing. So it took a little bit of time, but from one school to another, then to pro ball, it was a little overwhelming. Being a 16, 17-year-old kid from Eastern Lycoming County.
Yeah. So walk us through then the time that you spent in the major league systems.
Okay.
You played for the Pirates,
Yes, sir.
and also for the Indians.
Yep, 92, picked up by the Pirates, drafted. I was with Pittsburgh from 1992 to half of 2001. During that course, being a prospect in the organization and kind of, climbing the ladder and then being a suspect, kind of, the humble, just the grind of baseball knocks you down. So prospect, suspect, to being a prospect again. Dealt with some injuries, had a few surgeries, got to the, grinded it out, kept working hard, persevered. Got to the big leagues in 1999, opening day. Was there about a month. We had Jason Schmidt, Francisco Cordova, a couple other guys that got hurt.
Yeah.
So they wanted me to step up into the starting role as a pitcher. So they sent me down to Nashville to kind of get built back up. And my first start down there, I blew my shoulder out. So again, that's when, some of the things we're going to talk about is, what baseball's taught me, but was that perseverance and hard work and the grind and, some faith.
Mm-hmm.
I really rely on that. But so that was kind of 9.5, almost 10 years. And then very fortunate that the next day, once the Pirates let me go, Cleveland picked me up.
Mm-hmm.
They were a team that kind of pursued me a little bit through free agency, minor league free agency. So they finished out my rehab and got healthy and did really well for them. They got to the big leagues in 02 and 03 with them before I shipped off to Japan.
Yeah. So this is also really unique in that the opportunity that you took to play in Major League Baseball, but then also for the U.S. team. So kind of walk us through some of the experiences that you had there.
Yeah, I was blessed to be involved with USA Baseball as an amateur through in 1991 and 92 while I was in high school. I had an opportunity to make the junior Olympic team in 92 with Alex Rodriguez, AJ Hinch, who just now happens to be the manager for Houston.
Yeah.
We all know what Alex has done, and there's a few other big league guys that have had wonderful careers. But what's funny is I decided to go down the pro path, signed with Pittsburgh, and gave up the opportunity to play for Team USA as an 18-year-old. And the longer I played pro ball, the only regret looking back was not playing for my country. So in 2001, I was very fortunate being in Tucson at the time, Phoenix area as well, playing in the Arizona Fall League, which is just a winter ball league for minor leaguers. And I got a call from Terry Francona, who was just recently let go by the Phillies. He was the manager there, so he was kind of in between. And he took the job, the USA Baseball coach, and he asked me to go to Taiwan right after 9/11. So as I was telling you earlier, I wasn't apprehensive at all. The one regret that I had for 9 years was not being able to wear the red, white, and blue or the USA. So I told him, I'd do it. And as soon as I hung up the phone, I realized I kind of made a mistake in not, talking to my wife first.
Yeah.
But when I talked to her, she knew that it was a dream of mine to get back into that uniform, to represent your country, to play for a world championship. And so, again, November 1st, right after 9/11, we took off for Taiwan. And again, 4 years later, blessed to play for Davey Johnson, former manager of the Mets, and we went to Holland. So just those experiences to be able to represent the United States in a world championship like that, it was, I think it trumps even playing in the big leagues. Getting that first big league win, it was just, gives you chills to be able to represent 22 guys being able to represent your country in a world championship. So it's pretty awesome.
Definitely a cool stage.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, so then as far as the game, walk us through your final play. What did that look like?
Final play. So when you brought that up, I have a couple plays. I always say one was while I was still a professional, still playing, and we never think it's our last play until, the uniform's ripped off. So I have two. I have one, I find it comical. A lot of my friends don't let me forget about it, so that's why I don't forget. And I have a picture. I didn't even think about bringing it. I think it's at home. So we were in Holland. We were playing Cuba, who, again, Cuba's our big rival.
Right.
And I came in and out of the bullpen, and there was a play at home plate where I was covered home. There was I think a wild throw from the outfield. It got past the catcher. The catcher chased it. There was a play at home, and it was I think their shortstop, and I don't remember his name, but I got the ball. I came to tag him, and I went right up his chest, and knocked his helmet off. And I'm quite a bit bigger than he was. It was the third out. Next thing I know, their whole dugout's coming out, and I look back, it's just me. So that's why I say it's comical. It's a heated, you're just trying to get that play. And I have the picture of it at home where I'm just, you're just a blind play, you come back. So looking back, that was my last play there. But, when I never thought that the following spring training, being with the Baltimore Orioles, as I told you before, I kind of knew my career was winding down.
Right.
I had a young family. My son was 4.5, almost 5. Had a young daughter, a couple months at the time. Still loved playing. Still had the support at home. I was basically a 4A player, big leagues, minor leagues, bouncing back and forth. So I always called that 4A. Loved the camaraderie of the players. But it just so happened to be spring training. We were down the last week in 2006, which the rosters are getting smaller. The big league guys, the AAA guys, and everyone filters down through. Just so happened to be pitching against the Pirates. So it was a manager that I played for a long time with the Pirates organization, and my very first organization. Sarasota, where I started my whole career.
Right.
And I remember, I'll never forget the last guy just struck out looking on a curveball, walked off, and you just kind of get that sense that, all right, that could have been it. Just things that when you look back, obviously, the hindsight. And next day came into spring training, or came into camp, and you kind of get that, hey, Doc needs to see you. It was Doc Watson, who was my very first pitching coach in 1992. So the very first guy I met in pro ball just happened to be the guy who had to release me that day. So it was the last day of spring training. He said that this guy, we both teared up. Again, we're men, but it was emotional because I've known him for 15 years at that time.
Right.
That, hey, I gave you your opportunity years ago. We don't have a spot for you today, but you know what? We love you so much. We want to see you coach.
Yeah.
We've been a player for so long. We'd love to see you stay in your organization and be a coach, pitching coach. And I looked at him. I said, I've always been a player. Will always be a player. And I said, thank you. And that was it. It was just time to go home and be dad.
Yeah.
And like I said, with Gabe being 4.5 and my daughter, middle one now, but just time to go home. And so I went home, stayed in shape a couple weeks, thinking maybe a team would call, which April's always a tough month.
Right.
And, basically decided, hey, that was it. Transition out.
Huh. Unreal for it to be able to come full circle.
Full
like
circle,
that.
yeah.
And definitely a cool experience then for both the final play on the U.S. team and then in your
career-wise,
major league career. So I appreciate that. Now, another thing that I want to get into though is, it seems like it was a really easy transition for you from player to just dad, and being able to make that seamless. But to what extent did your identity change from baseball player to what you're doing now?
I'll be honest with you. I had my very first injury in 2001. That's when I really learned my identity was strictly as a baseball player. So I had back-to-back shoulder surgeries, 11 months apart. And when you're not on the field, and you've probably talked to other athletes, when something's taken away from you, you start really reflecting.
Yeah.
And that's when, and my son was just born. I almost lost my wife in the process as far as not a good childbirth.
Yeah.
So that, a new son, possibly my career ending, not on my terms. So a lot of, reflective time, finding yourself, because again, your identity was a ball player at that time. So from 01 for the next 5 years, I identified as a baseball player, but I knew it wasn't going to last forever.
Right.
That's when I really started enjoying the game more.
Yeah.
Not worrying about so much the little things. It took me being knocked down quite a few times to kind of get over that. So I would say the transition may have been easier for me.
Because it started a little bit
Because it started a little bit earlier. Again, as soon as you surrender and give in.
Yeah.
Again, I'm talking a little bit about my faith as well, that things are going to be okay.
Yeah.
I never thought I had an ego as far as, hey, this is what I do. I was always kind of been humble. I think because of that. And also growing up in a blue collar family, I had a wife that I met in high school, so kind of along the way, we've all been kind of together. She kept me humble. We kind of kept one another humble, knowing where we came from. We were able to get to the apex and kind of bounce around from there. But, I'm actually sit on a board through Major League Baseball, the Alumni Association, and they started a transition program. It actually is very difficult because you go from playing 4 or 5 years old all the way through high school. If you're fortunate enough to play in high school, maybe some professional ball or organized baseball after that. And then for someone to tell you that, hey, you're not good enough anymore.
Right.
There is an issue that your identity is strictly as a ball player.
Right.
And I work with some clients now that are former ball players that have struggled or continue to struggle, because you go from the limelights of LA, New York, wherever, where people want your time and your attention to, hey, you're just an average person. But again, I was fortunate enough to have a family and a background that kept me grounded, that I try to help players with that now. Again, being on a board with the alumni, I try to help players with that. So
that's awesome. I wasn't aware that there's an alumni association like that. So
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Cool. Now, as far as we talked about the identity, we talked about the final play. What about then? If you could go back, what would you say to tell a younger self? At 15.
I've had a chance to kind of rehearse this. Because of, again, being hurt, down on your luck, to a lot of success, to, I always call prospect the suspect, and so you look at it that way, but also having a son who's a senior in high school now.
Yeah.
I've worked and trained with kids, coached kids for the last almost 12 years since I've been done playing. So it's not that I reflect on or look in the mirror and think, what if I would have told myself, if I could.
Yeah.
I'm telling these kids,
right.
Not to enjoy it, have fun with it. I talk to the parents, don't put any pressure on them, let them find their way. It's got to be something that they love to do. It's got to be on their terms.
Right.
As a father, you can't make kids do it, know, because that's the ultimate way to burn them out.
Right.
But to enjoy the process along the way, obviously being 45 years old, we can look back on the things that we've learned. Trying to expose my 3 kids or the kids that I come across when I coach or teach, that I'm going to teach from my failures, not my success.
Right.
Failure is where you're really going to learn from. And that's what, if I could tell my 15-year-old self, that is, enjoy it, have fun. 15 years sounds like a long time.
Right.
It's so short-lived.
Yeah.
But just, make sure you take it all in. Don't get caught up staring at the lights, but, enjoy it. Enjoy the people you meet, from your teammates to the stadium workers. And that was something I was fortunate enough. Every minor league park, every big league park, it was my home city. I knew everybody along the way, from the parking attendant to go down the steps on security cards. I think that just comes back to being from Hughesville and, a good upbringing and, humble career, that just be polite, know everybody, enjoy the ride, and don't sweat the small things. Yeah,
absolutely. So another question, or one last question then, would be, what would you say would be the number one thing that you've learned from baseball?
I have quite a few, but my biggest thing is just, whether it's in my business now or being a father, but just being patient.
Yeah.
But with patience comes hard work. Yeah. Because you can sit here, nothing will be given to you. But just I always call it the grind. You have to work hard every day, and be persistent, be patient. So, absolutely. And we don't always have it.
No, we don't always have the answers either.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I definitely appreciate the time that you've provided, and everyone. I hope you also enjoy the time. If you did, please like and subscribe below. But in addition, remember, whatever it is that you do today, approach it with the mindset of, is this my final play? Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Brian.
Cool. So.